So I've come over here. I've brought the recording of Spies Like Us with me that you made the music for.
This is for you. I'm here with Deb Freckleton, who you know is the local member up at Mango. And Deb has always wanted to say thank you to you personally for coming up and helping with the Roy Emerson statue.
Yeah, Hugh, thank you so very much. What your donation has enabled Blackbud to have is the Roy Emerson statue. And now we're fighting for the Roy Emerson way. So thank you very much, Hugh. We really appreciate it.
Afternoon everyone, Peter Rossi here from Brisbane Tennis Trail YouTube channel. And those of you who've been watching over the years will realise that there's been a name change. And we are here this afternoon with Hugh Lunn, and we're now doing a series of interviews in relation to Hong Kong. Because as Hugh rightly pointed out, when Hugh was there in 64 and 65, there was as long to go to the handover as now there is to when Hong Kong and the two-party system stops and it just becomes Hong Kong within China. And the starting point for the interviews is going to be the life and times and effect of Chuck within Hong Kong and how he really did prosper amazingly, but more importantly, the world prospered from his enterprise and his entrepreneurial spirit. So Hugh, what do you think Chuck would be thinking and pondering upon as he now looks at the world in Hong Kong based upon his experience back in the 1960s?
Well, I think Chuck, like me, would be distressed at the terrible future that the people of Hong Kong face, because they've been left on their own. And you know, when we were there in the mid-60s, the people of Hong Kong faced being handed back to China in the 90s, in 1997 was it? Oh, yeah. And so I thought, why, I was 23, I thought, why are they worried about it? You know, it's going to be years and decades away. And then it came to pass. But I remember when we were there, everyone in Hong Kong said to me, well, we'll be all right because we've got British passports. And they all had a British passport. And they said, so England will look after us or we can go to England. But I knew that wasn't going to happen, and it certainly didn't happen, and England handed them back as under China for 50 years. And then what happens? Well, who knows? So I loved Hong Kong. I loved it so much when I lived there that after I left 7 or 8 months later, I to work for Reuters in London. I never wanted to go back because I knew it wouldn't be the same, and I did get back there in 1992 and I still loved it. And Hong Kong was an amazing, thrilling place, and people don't know what it was like back then, but you know, arriving from Brisbane where there were about 2 jewellery stores in town, you got to Hong Kong and there were hundreds of jewellery stores, and there were so many people, and the ferry, catching the ferry every morning. And I used to like to go, you could go first class upstairs or for half the price downstairs. And I always went downstairs. Every morning I went to work across the harbour in the Star Ferry because I could look at the beautiful green water, and I was close to everything and see everything. And you could look up onto the hills of Hong Kong, and so many people were escaping communism in China that they lived in these huts made of cardboard and plastic all up and down the hills because there was nowhere for them to live. And that's why Hong Kong was such a go-ahead place. They were throwing up new buildings for people to live in, and here they had to use steel scaffolding, and there they just tied bits of bamboo together up 30 stories, and they were knocking down 10-story buildings and putting up 30-story. And that was the environment when Chuck lived there. He came there shortly after Fletcher and I got there.
And that story about the bamboo scaffolding, it was quite amazing when I was driving around when I was there doing the bit of filming that'll be sort of showing to the side of this. They still use it, even today.
Yeah, well, it turned out it was actually safer than steel scaffolding because it gives with the wind and the typhoons and when you get up that high, because if it's done properly, bamboo is one of the most flexible, strong materials you can get. And of course now they knock down the 30-storey buildings to build 60-storey buildings in Hong Kong. And I wrote for the Far East Architect and Builder because there was so much interest in the buildings going up in Hong Kong. And I stayed at the Grand Hotel in Carnarvon Road on the corner, the triangular corner there, where Sun Yat-sen's descendants owned it. And Sun Yat-sen is now the biggest thing in China because Communist China has decided that they have no religion, they have no heroes, and they can't worship Mao anymore. So now they've decided to worship the man who created the Republic in China and got rid of the emperors, and that was Sun Yat-sen. And his nephew owned the Grand Hotel, and that nephew's son Victor wanted to be Hong Kong tennis champion. And so Kenny Fletcher, who was in the Davis Cup team in Australia, was my best mate. And we went up there and stayed at the Grand Hotel while Kenny coached Victor to win the Hong Kong championship, which he did because of Ken.
Aha, now see, I don't remember that being in the...
It is in the book. It's more in the Great Fletcher. In fact, he beat Jerry Sun. So the Suns were a very rich family, and on Sun Yat-sen's birthday, you could not get into the Grand Hotel for the thousands of buckets of flowers that all the Chinese had delivered to Sun Yat-sen's descendants to honour them. And so it was very important that Victor win the tennis championship, but Jerry Sun was the son of the biggest flour mill owner in Southeast Asia, and he'd been sent to a university in America where he'd been coached by Pancho Gonzalez and played for his college team. And so he came back for the Hong Kong Championship. It was a closed tournament. And Victor played Jerry in the final. And Victor was very worried about beating Jerry Sun. And Fletch was saying to him, "You can do it, Victor. I've been around the world. I've seeded 3 at Wimbledon. I've seen them all play. And you are better than him." And he turned to me and said, "Tennis is 90% confidence. I've got to give him confidence."
And I think we'll leave the answer to that story to the next YouTube. And so this is the first. And thanks for watching. And I hope when you come back, we'll actually start out by talking about the painting behind Hugh, which is obviously of Hugh, because there's a really interesting story to the painting as well.
So we've been up to Blackbird and we've been recording, and Dad's been playing Spies Like Us on the radio, and I've really enjoyed it.